Hi, my name is Olivia Gray, and this is my graphic novel analysis for comic book writing. I think it's just comic book writing. Okay, um, for this month's graphic novel analysis, I picked the novel Black Sad, which is a production by, not production, it's produced by Dark Horse Books and is 176 pages. It's actually not considered a full graphic novel. I mean, they do consider it that, you know, on Amazon or whatever, but that's not. It has great reviews, and that's why I picked it. I got the hard copy because I had faith in the read, which it was such a great idea. I loved it. And before I get ahead of myself with going into it, I'm just to say I do seriously recommend this book. I'm not a great explainer, but I really do I recommend this book. Every issue in this compilation, issue 1, 2, and 3, is phenomenal. The third one was my least favorite. We'll get into why because it's really confusing. Um, anyway, I'll dive in. So, excuse me. Honey, can you turn that down, please? Yep. Turn it down. Thank you. Okay. So, the first story is called Somewhere in the Shadows, and the art is really pretty. I love it. It's wrong. Figure out my direction. It's sort of watercolored paint looking like. That did not come out right. Anyway, it looks like watercolor paint, but it's not. And anyway, so Somewhere in the Shadows is the first issue. The kind of premise of the first issue, is that basically Black Sad, the detective, the cat detective, is investigating a murder that he's really close to. An ex-lover of his was killed. The excuse me, burping. The ex-lover was killed, and he's trying to figure out who killed her and why. So that's pretty much what the whole first issue is about. Black Sad, the detective, is a protagonist. The conflict, he's trying to figure out his ex-lover or whatever, and he ends up figuring it out. So before I get into the story of it and the pictures, I'm just going to say the Act 1, sorry, I have my notes. Act 1 was pages 1 through 17 of the book, 1 through 7 of the actual issue, and Act 2, Act 2 was 8 through 25, Act 3 was 26 through 46. So it does not follow the kind of model that we had in class, the 22 pages. It's kind of everywhere, and all the issues are separately different page counts. So, I'll show you. So, the first opening scene of the first issue is the detective. He's looking at, bam, the girl, his ex-lover, a dead body. She's pretty much naked. It's pretty gory and graphic. The detective, his close friend, ends up helping him out later. It tells him he doesn't want him near the case, and he's like, F that. And he leaves. He's pissed. And then he goes back to his place, which is messy, and he starts thinking about, like, he's sad, you can tell. He's thinking about her, and she's actually a movie star. And he's thinking about the first time he met her. And it was actually, she called him as a detective to figure out why she had so many admirers and blah, 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 and there's so many flowers. And he was like, oh, I don't understand why you're so upset about this. But then there was death notes, and he figured it out. Right there. He figured it out, and then she repaid him with the sex. Anyway. I really enjoyed the way this book handled, I'm going to talk about directional flow real fast. It handled directional flow of, like, the art, not only the art, but just the way things were written. Everything sort of pushed into the next scene, whether it was through the art or through the writing. For instance, here he's like he was sulking on this page, right? He was sulking, or the page before, and then you see all these memories, and that's basically like you're seeing him isolated here, isolated and alone, and then you're seeing him having all these memories of her, and then so you're basically getting to in the background of why it's so important to him, and then you kind of get back into this world of sad and like whatever. And then the last panel is a silent panel, but it says here, and that bastard was going to pay. And so we don't know what's going to happen next, but we see a new character, and then it's a boxer, gorilla, and then bam, go to the next page. Boom, boom, boom. They're all hitting each other, and then you find out that that was another bodyguard of his, and I don't know, it just goes so well. It flows so well. But he basically goes through and finds out that, someone killed her, and he searches for whoever killed her, which is the goal. And it turns out to be this creepy dude that we don't actually see in this page, but he's kind of goes unfaced for a while, and these are all of his goons here. And Blacksad ends up having some run-ins with the goons, and then it shows like clues, silent clues here, and then you kind of, from the silent clues that were in her apartment, of the death, that shows that earlier in the book, you kind of go into the club here. So that's like a coaster or whatever, and then you go into the actual club, which is like a rundown club, which he's like, oh, she would never be here, but she turns out to be there. Anyway, so he catches the bad guy. This is a bad guy. And that's kind of the running theme of Blacksad, is he's catching the bad guy, and the bad guy dies, and then he moves on. So it's really good conflict, really good character, and whatever. The second issue, I need to push through this because I'm already at 7 minutes. Second issue is called Arctic Nation. The protagonist again is Blacksad. The conflict is a girl getting kidnapped. And this is a really weird kind of setting. In this specific issue, he's like in a world where race is huge. It's basically about white supremacy, and it's like an animal version of white supremacy, and they're like talking about how the white race is the best race, and it's kind of an issue because Blacksad is black with a white muzzle. And anyway, so the first act ends on page 68 of the whole book, so it's actually going to be page 5 of the issue, and it ends with a school teacher saying that she doesn't understand why a mother in this story is not looking after her child that has been missing. She's suspicious, and so Blacksad gets called, and then that rushes into the story. And then we meet all these characters about the white supremacy and a blind guy who's always listening but never sees anything but has all the answers. Anyway, and here's the white supremacist leader who is actually being framed by his wife, who he thinks is white, and he cheats on because she won't let him touch her. It's a really complicated story, and I'm terrible at explaining things. I'm trying to go quick. Basically, this evil man had a wife, and it was a white polar bear, and she was a black, cat dog thing. I don't know, I couldn't tell. And basically, he got her pregnant, and that was frowned upon, so he left her in the snow. And it's really, 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 really sad. There's photos, or not photos, there's illustrations. I'm not going to show them to you because it's going to take too long. But he left her in the snow, and he was expecting her to die, and she actually didn't die. She ended up having 2 babies. One of them was all white, and then one of them was all black. And I don't know if they were cat polar bears or dog polar bears. Either way, there's 2 girls. One of them was Dina, and the other one, I'm not even sure of her name because I don't think it mentions. It's just the chief's wife. Basically, she grows up, the white one, and her sister. They come up with a plan to get back at him. So she is actually mixed race. And we find this out later. She's all white, but she has a black piece on her chest. She comes up with the plan with her sister to get back at him by marrying him and not letting her have sex with him. And so then he cheats on her with her sister, who's black, because he has those tendencies, and gets her pregnant, sister pregnant. And it's so complicated. Gets the sister pregnant, which is actually this girl. And the sister is crying, pretending like she lost her child, and she's so upset. And Blacksad confronts her, like, why aren't you... I can't get this right. Blacksad confronts her, like, why aren't you looking after your child? Why aren't you finding her? And she gets mad. Turns out it was all a scheme. And they were trying to accuse him fakely of, hurting children, raping children, or whatever, even though he didn't. He was just racist. And then his white supremacist group goes against him. They end up hanging him. I don't know if you can see that. They end up hanging him because they're crazy. This is in a weird warehouse. He's right there. And then the blind guy, who knows everything, was suddenly there and helps them find... The blind guy, he gets shot. And they helps him find the little girl who was alive the whole time. And all the stories come out. Because her little black spot, Blacksad has no shame, and he ripped her shirt open. Anyway, it's a really good story. It's like super complex, super interesting. Each character is like, I don't know, you wouldn't expect it. Here's that page I was talking about, the really sad. He gets the girl pregnant, and then he drops her in the snow and leaves her to die. And then she has the 2 babies. Anyway, yeah, so that's it for that issue. Issue number 3. It's called Red Soul. This one's even more complex. So complex that it's like hard to explain, maybe just for me because I'm super harebrained, but protagonist again is Blacksad. The conflict is a secret communist group society is planning on releasing the formula for nuclear bombs and to other countries. And the world is coming and everybody's scared and freaking out and it's like whatever. And so the goal here for me, it was confusing to find out, as well as like the act breaks. This is why I don't have, like, I wrote them down, but I lost my sticky note, if I'm being honest. Like, while making, like, this is the 3rd time I'm shooting this video. Anyway, I was confused on the act breaks because the conflict was so confusing. Like, I knew the all-around conflict, but the goal of Blacksad initially, of Red Soul, is, which is actually the name of a painting in the book, in the issue. Basically, the goal of him, it was really confusing. There was like a whole 5-page scene of like uselessness about a what's it called? It's a poker. And I was like, okay, that's dumb. This goes not with the story at all. And then basically Blacksad gets in touch with an old professor who helped him get out of poverty when he was young, took care of him, and the professor turns out to be not who he said he was, and he lived a life as a Nazi secretly in his old days, but changed, but somehow managed to make the mistake of creating the formula for bombs and giving it away, or planning to give it away. So in this story, he like has a friend who's a painter, and their whole plan is to diabolically put all the formulas for making the bombs on paintings and ship them off to other countries so that they can blow the world up. And then there's secret societies that keep people safe, and super rich people who know about it get away with it and whatnot. Blacksad finds all this out way too late in the issue for me to really freaking understand where the act breaks are. I know where the end is. Basically, the professor has a breakdown and lets Blacksad know last second, what's really going on, because he feels super bad. That's the professor, the little owl, and he has like a little breakdown about his life and about how it was all useless, and you can see there's a solitude. It's really silent panels, but they're beautiful and they tell a lot. Black Sad saves the day. There's a little romance that happens. Of course. Excuse me. Really raunchy. Okay. Anyway, again, the breakdown. So this is where he tells Black Sad his plan. The professor feels terrible about it. Black Sad is kind of disgusted with him and rushes out to fix the problems. He ends up finding out about the paintings, rushing to the shipping dock of where the paintings are being shipped, and changing the labels. So this says Australia there. They're supposed to go to like Russia. He switches the labels, and that basically saves the day. And then there's like a resolution that's super about the society, and he ends up getting arrested, and he doesn't get the girl, unfortunately. Anyway, it's really good, and I can see this issue going on. I recommend it. It's great. The directional flow of it was perfect. Like, everything shifts from scene to scene, from moment to moment, as McCloud talks about it perfectly, like almost as if you'd see in a movie. Like, even if it's not like a connected scene on the next page, it's basically the right scene to get the reader to see what's happening in the story and to put them in the right direction of the mystery. And I think it's so interesting the way they put this together. It's because mysteries are often, really hard to put clues together, and I can imagine that in a comic it makes it even more difficult. But this graphic novel does a great job of it. The writers that I can't pronounce the names, I don't know if I said them in the beginning. These ones, Juan Diaz, Juanjo, can't say that, and lettering by Studio Cutie. So written by, illustrated by, and written by, or lettered by, and Dark Horse Studio, or Dark Horse Books. So yeah, it's Black Sad's story throughout the entire thing. Every time there's different situations. There's no full story arc because, like I said, it's a compilation. There's no real character arc. I mean, there you see in some issues, Black Sad, Black Sad has like a shift in character slightly, where he's like mean at first, and then he ends up liking a character and he befriends them or something, and that character is shown throughout different issues, which I really liked because it turned out to be super funny. But basically that's it. I really enjoyed the book, and I highly recommend it. Sorry this video is so long.